Exercise 5-5 is another metric file, so again I'm going to go to New, grab my metric template. I can go ahead and begin to change the text that needs to be changed down here. There's 5-5, put in my date. Make sure that I save this, so we'll make it EX5-5. And now I can begin working on my file. Again, for this one, I'm also going to use the block method, which is going to work out a little bit easier. So we've got 80 by 40 for the front view. Draw my rectangle for my view spacing. I call it a rectangle even though it's a square because I use the rectangle command to do it. But just keep in mind, even squares are drawn using the rectangle command, so that's why you'll hear me call a lot of squares rectangles. Now I can go ahead and draw my next rectangle to represent the right side view, which is going to be 40 by 40, and then draw the rectangle for my top view, which is negative 80 by 40. So here I've got my three rectangles. I'm ready to begin actually drawing my views. So I'm going to start with the front view, and the way that I'm going to start this is I'm going to hover over this point, move to the right, type 30 and enter, and then from here I can go down the distance of 10. This is going to come back distance of 20. There's going to be a lot of math required in doing this particular exercise, but if you write down what I'm talking about now, you won't have to do quite as much. But that segment right there was 20. And now I need 80 minus 25, which is 55, to get over to my next point. And this is going to be another 20 up. And it's going to come another 15 out. And then up. And that's the basic U shape that I'm working with. I can go ahead and trim out this little piece right here. And now I'm going to draw a line. I'm just going to hover over this endpoint, move up, type 15, enter, and that's going to allow me to draw that line right there. And now I'm going to offset that line 10. Now if you've been doing the reading assignments, all of the commands that I'm using, like the offsets and the lines and stuff like that, you'll have already gotten from the reading assignment. So that's why I don't typically tend to go over a lot of the commands, but I will take a few moments and go back over that offset command. The offset command is the one that looks like the little rubber bands right here. When you click it, it's going to ask you to specify a distance. The distance that I need is 10. Now I can click on this line and then pick the side that I want to offset it to. And since I want it to go up, I'm going to move my cursor up and left click. And that's going to give me my completed front view. Now I need to work on my right side view. And when I look at my right side view, I see this backwards C shape and then a rectangle right here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring a line across from here, go 20 and down 10, and then back out to the end. That is all the visible lines that I have in my right side view. Now some people are going to want to trim out this little segment right here, but keep in mind there's this edge back here that you would be seeing from right here, so that does not get trimmed out. For my top view, I'm going to see a visible line right here, and I'm going to see a visible line right here. As far as visible lines are concerned, this is all the visible lines that I have on my actual part. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my miter line so that I can start to transfer some of the other information. Switch from the model layer or layer 0, whichever one you happen to be working in, and I'm going to go to hidden lines. But before I do that, for the sake of the class, I'm going to change the color of my hidden line layer. That way you all can see it in the recordings. It's set up to be blue, which is what I want you all to leave it as, but I'm going to make it green for the purpose of the recordings. That way you can all see the hidden lines that I'm working with. So now I have an edge here and here. Those both need to be established over here. So let me go ahead and switch over to hidden lines. I've got my center lines green, so let me go ahead and make them yellow. And then I'll go ahead and close out my layer control. Switch to the hidden line layer, and I'm going to project a line from here straight across, project a line from here straight across, and as I look, those are the only two hidden lines that I'm going to see in this view. There's going to be this edge right here and this edge right here. In my top view, I know that I need to represent this edge with a hidden line and this edge with a hidden line. And the questions you ask yourself: is there an edge right here? Yes. Is it visible in the top view? No. That means it's a hidden line. Is there an edge right here? Yes. Is it visible in the top view? Yes. It's a solid line. So in doing that, what we can see is that if I take any line from any view, it's going to be visible in all three views. It just may either be an object line or a hidden line. For example, is there a line here? Yes. There is an edge here. Is it visible in the top view? No. So it's going to be a hidden line in the top view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line straight up to my miter line, and then straight over to here to draw that hidden line, and then I'm going to go ahead and erase and trim what I don't need to get the rest of this part. So here we can see we've got our front view, our top view, and our right side view complete with all the hidden lines that we need. I'm now going to go ahead and switch over to the check layer, since that's where I would ultimately be placing these lines anyway. I can just go ahead and draw them on the check layer. And I'm going to move them from the midpoint of the short line to the midpoint of the longer line. Click on my other two lines here, change their layer as well to the check layer, and now I'm going to turn the check layer off. And go to my dimension layer. Since I've got my top, front, and right side views all completely drawn, all I need to do now is the dimensioning. Now the dimensioning on this one can get a little bit tricky, but again, I'm not going to be overly concerned with your dimension placement for this week, but I do want to make sure that you go through and do your dimensions. So first thing I'm going to do is the height over here, and I'm going to drag that out kind of far because I'm going to want to do the 10 for this right here and the 10 for this also. That way I've got those three dimensions in. And now I can come right here, do the 10 for this segment. We'll do our overall dimension of 80 right here. Our dimension from here to here is going to be 15. Do the overall depth right here. Rather than doing 30 in two places, I'm just going to place two dimensions that are 30. There's not a ton of dimensions on this one, so that's not going to make that big of a deal, or big of a difference. If we had a ton of dimensions, then I would want to change that up a little bit so it was a little clearer. So now I need to get the dimensions for this feature right here, so we'll click from here to here. That'll come out as 15. I don't like the way it placed the 15, so I'm going to grab this, grab the grip over the text, and move it down to the midpoint of the dimension line, and then I'm going to dimension this piece right here as 10. Now again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check the book. I've got my 10, my 15, my 40, I've got this 40 here, I don't have this 20 right here, so I need to put in this 20. So we'll click here and here. Now this is a good case where I can show you something. I talked in a previous video about having these gaps in here. If I dimension this object right here, and I do it by picking this point and this point, I get no gap right here. So rather than doing it that way, if I pick this corner point and then this point, you can see that I have a gap here and a gap here. That's going to be something that you'll get as you go through and practice doing your dimensions, but it's one of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing on a regular basis so that everything is coming out the way that it's supposed to be. So going back to my dimension verification, like I said, I've got my 10, my 15, my 40. I now have my 20 in here. I've got my 15, my 80. I got the 10 here, the 10 here, the 10 here, the 230 dimensions, and all of my overall dimensions. Now that I've verified all of my dimensions and everything, I'm going to make sure that I save the file, and that's going to complete exercise 5-5.